One.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the For-Profit Blogging Videocast. This week we'll give our expensive prop a little motion. Doesn't it look like we didn't even have to pay extra for that? With me today, I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, by the way, Stacking Benjamins. With me is Kathleen Selmans, also from Stacking Benjamins.
Hey everyone.
So yeah, we didn't have to pay any extra for that. Isn't that amazing?
It all comes with the same package.
we throw in the extra effects for free here. Don't say we don't give you anything. We don't give you any good advice, but we do give you the awesome effects. So we are going to talk today about working with advertisers and also working with brands, because there's a lot of time, Kathleen, that brands come out of the woodwork and they say, hey, we would like to put our stuff on your website. Which is fine as long as it's the type of stuff that your audience really wants.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing right at first, because somebody, if you've been blogging for 3 to 6 months, head down, you feel like nobody's paying attention to you, and then all of a sudden a brand says, hey, I really like what you're doing. Can you add a link in an old post and we'll give you X dollars? You think, well, yeah.
Well, what? I can get paid for this? Are you kidding?
Right. You're like, okay, yeah, sure. And then they're like, oh, it's to sketchy.co.uk.
Right. No, sketchy.porn.uk.
Yeah, right.
Or sketchy.gambling.uk.
Right. Or in personal finance, it's like, we want you to link to the thing that you just completely said no one should ever have in the last post. We'd like you to link to our thing on that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So what's funny is that I think early on, when I was an early financial advisor, there were things that I had to do just to keep the doors open. I think it's important that to take a look around you, especially if you're new in the online business, and see who's around and who isn't. Because initially, Kathleen, it seems like there's these people that are ideologues, we'll call them, people that think, oh, my post is never going to have any advertising on it ever, which is fine, except when you look at people who've been around, they all have advertising. Because even though you don't want to maybe go after the dollar and be greedy, it's tough to keep up a hobby for a long, long time that's as intense and as difficult as this one is.
I think that's true, Joe. I think one of the things that's really hard is when you want to be a certain way, and then it turns out, you find out that everybody has a price. I hate to say that.
Yeah, but that price should have parameters, right? I mean, it should be, we accept this, we don't accept this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a few things you have to have. If you're right out of the gate, number one, you have to have a way for people to find you. It's amazing how many times I go to new bloggers' websites, a lot of the time to try to have them on the podcast to give them more exposure, because I like what they're writing, and I can't find any way to get a hold of them. If I can't find any way to get a hold of you, potential sponsors cannot find a way to get a hold of you. So make sure you've got a contact page and you've got easy ways for people to find you. The second thing, though, is when people send you stuff, you have to negotiate. And it's funny, Kathleen, there's this guy when I was a brand new, might have told the story before, but it's apropos here, which is when I was starting up being a disc jockey in high school. And my brother and I, we had this new DJ company. We bought our stuff from this guy named Barry Ray. And Barry Ray was kind of like what his name implies. Barry Ray looked like he'd been, he'd lived a hard life. Let's put it that way. On the road as a guitar player in many different bands. Barry Ray had hair that was to his butt, I think, and but no hair on top. It was really weird. It kind of started here and went all the way down. But Barry Ray sold us all our first equipment, but he also was a guy who'd been around the block. And he said, listen, when a wedding is going bad, nobody looks at like the caterer. Nobody looks at the bride's mother, who is completely ruining everything, by the way. She's the one doing it. They don't look at her. They look at the DJ, or they look at the band, and they're like, the band is screwing it up. He said, so when you walk into a wedding, you have to pretend you own it, because you are going to own it. In the eyes of the guest, you're going to own it. So when anybody ever sends me sponsored post or sponsored content, I think about Barry Ray. And I think they're not going to say, well, this person from who knows where sent Joe this bad stuff and he threw it up online, so it's their fault. No, they're going to think that Joe is putting rotten stuff on his site. So when people send me sponsored posts that I do not love the writing, I will go in there and heavily edit it. Now I'll also go back to my sponsor and I'll tell them, hey, I edited your post so it sounded better. What do you think? You know how many times they've ever said, no, I want it back to the original? As long as I don't mess with that link, which is what they really want, they don't mind it. Then I've had times when bigger media have picked up my sponsored post because it was so beneficial. So I don't know. I think about Barry Ray a lot, Kathleen.
I think then it's important that there's two things, because if somebody's asking you to put a link on your website, you are well within your rights to say, sure, what kind of link are you thinking about? And they say, well, we'd really like to write a post about, I don't know, video conferencing or something. You have to ask yourself, like, does that hurt my brand? Is that okay with my brand? Video conferencing is an easy slam dunk. I mean, what are we doing right now, right?
Right.
But you ask yourself every time, like, and don't be afraid to say no. It's not going to be the last sponsored post that advertiser that's going to come through. And then once you're comfortable with it, then let them know your rates. And I know nobody ever wants to talk about rates. And I think that is a disservice to the new bloggers.
Yeah. Initially, I was going to accept pretty close to anything when it came to rates. And as long as I could negotiate to make the writing up to my standards after a couple of problems with that, let's say. But you know, you can't be accepting 25 and 45 and $50 posts. You cannot be.
I think even right out the gate, I think for me, my very first sponsored link, they asked me to put a link in an old post and they sent $75, which really felt like easy money. And so, but that became my floor. So I wouldn't do anything for less than $75 right off the bat.
I was going to say, I think mine was $85. And let's be clear here, what we're talking about right now, Google frowns on. We're talking about stuff that is against Google's terms of service. Let's be clear about what Google's after, because I think part of the reason why I never ran afoul of Google is protecting the reader. So if you are protecting your reader, the chance of the Google hammer coming down on you, they still can come down on you because you're doing something they're telling you not to do. However, the chance of that happening is way, way, way low if you're delivering great content to your readers. People complain. I would complain if and you can tell a sponsored post from a mile away that's just been thrown up there for a quick $100 or whatever the people are doing things about. So now it's funny. So our rates on Stacking Benjamins are still, for sponsored posts, are frankly not that high. They're $250. But the funny thing about that is that we had an advertiser this week, which is why we wanted to talk about this, who said, I like your site. What's your rate? I said $250. And she came back with, oh, I'll give you 50. I think your site's worth 50. And get this, Kathleen, if you do the one for 50, you'll be on my list. And then I'll give you a lot of them at 50. But I'm not. I'm like, oh, so I can have a bunch of crap on my site instead of a little bit of crap. So I said, no, thank you. And she came back and she said, well, really, what's your minimum? Because I think I could probably come up with 70. See how this works? I could probably come up with 70. I said, no, I don't think I need to negotiate. Think we're fine at 250. And she came back with, well, we might be able to find 90. But I really need to know what your real minimum is, because it can't be 250. I said, I think we're way far apart. Really don't feel like negotiating. Thanks a lot. Good luck. And haven't heard from her since. But can't go accepting stuff that's way below your rate.
And to be fair, there are way better ways to work with brands than these SEO agencies.
Right.
I don't even think like the backlinks are helping these companies anymore because Google frowns on them. But we just did a sponsored post with US Bank on Frugal Portland, and it's fantastic. I took a quiz. I got to write about the quiz. They wanted to talk about HELOCs. They asked for the disclosures. You can work with brands in a way that doesn't make you feel icky.
We did a recent run with Fred Alger, a great investment firm, a Wall Street investment firm, and they have a proud, long tradition of great investment management. Did one. We got paid a lot more money. It was a fantastic post we got to write about the top tech tools we saw at FinCon. Got paid way higher than these SEO clowns will give you. I think sometimes you got to make yourself available to that, right? I mean, you really have to go out of your way. And I think this is running long. So I'll give people one more piece of advice that I received at Digital MilX. And it's from the woman, Jennifer, who runs Military One Click, which is a great military site. So we'll give her some props here to all three of our viewers. But Jennifer, what she would do, she's a social media queen. She knows her stuff. So what she would do to lure great brands to work with her, she would set up a campaign for free. She would do the campaign for free. She would track the results, and then she would go to that brand and say, here's what I got you for free. Now can we talk about me really doing it? And they saw what she did, and they went, oh, yeah, we'd love to bring you on board. So they know she's hungry. They know she's going to not put up junk. They know she's a quality site. I think that's a good way for a newish blogger to get started. You have to build your social media presence to do that. But I think once you've done that, you might be able to show some good metrics that will lead you to big brands.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great piece of advice. And we could talk about sponsored content all day, but we won't.
We could. We'll leave it there. For more on sponsored content, for podcasting, for anything to do with your brand, head to forprofitblogging.com, and we'll put the wave back in there. See you next time, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.